everyone, Kelly here, and today I want to share with you some of the possibilities that I want to read in February. So I have a huge pile here. I went a little overboard, but I kind of am viewing my TBRs this year as just possibilities, like I said, because I am still a mood reader. So I kind of have categories of things, and so I might only read one book from each of those categories or whatever. But yeah, so let me just show you some of the things that I am interested in. So first of all, I did this last year for my new releases, and I'm doing it again, where any anticipated new releases I have, I just automatically put them on hold at the library. So at the beginning of the year, I've put all the books that are coming out until like April, and then a little bit later, as more things get purchased by the library, I reserve more things, and so then as soon as the book is released and the library owns it, it shows up. So I had 4 new releases show up at the library. So I think these were all these are January. So these are the 4 new releases. I might read all of these. I might only read a couple. We'll see how long I can keep them from the library. First, I have The Siren Sussex by Mimi Matthews. I'm trying to read more of authors that I've loved in the past, and I've only read one Mimi Matthews book, but I gave it 5 stars. And so I was like, I should read more by Mimi Matthews. So when I saw she had a new book coming out, I went ahead and put it on hold. I don't really know much about this, except for this is going to be the start of a series. And it is a historical, and I think it might have a little romance. I just read the back, and so yes, it is a romance, and it follows a woman named Evelyn who says she's not worth much in the marriage market because her family has kind of come under ruin. And then she meets a man who is working his way towards recognition as a tailor, but he's also dealing with prejudices because he is of Indian heritage, and I think the two of them fall in love. And it's a series, so I'm not sure what else would be contributing to make it a series, if it's going to be like a companion romance kind of series, or if we're going to follow the same characters. But I'm interested in trying more by Mimi Matthews, so that's one new release. And then I have Where the Drowned Girls Go by Shauna McGuire. This is the 6th or the 7th book I think it's the 7th book in the Wayward Children series. And this one I think follows a different school than the one that we've been in the other books. And so I'm interested in seeing a new area that is like in our world, but involving the same kind of like fantasy and people coming from different worlds. And these are always short and fun, so I hope to definitely get that one done since it's so quick. Then I have another sequel. I have The Dream Spies by Nicole L'Esperance, and this is the sequel to The Nightmare Thief, which was a new release last year that I read, and it was like a creepy middle grade fantasy, but it was also like in our real world. So it was like in our real world, but people have the ability to like give each other dreams. Like this family that we're following are dream makers, so they have a dream selling store where they give you little packets and you put them in your mouth at night, and they give you dreams or nightmares. That they don't tend to sell nightmares, but that was the first one was about nightmares. I don't know what the second one is about, but once again, it has a delightfully like fantastical, slightly creepy cover. So I think this one will be a lot of fun. Oh, from the back, it looks like they're at a camp. And I used to work at a camp, so anything having to do with a camp and the fact that it might be a little spooky and things like that and fantastical, I think that will be a fun. And that's just, I'm pretty sure that's just a duology, so that would be finishing a series if I read that. And then I have a thriller that just came out that a lot of people are talking about, and that's Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins. I haven't read anything by this author yet, but I've heard good things, so I want to at least give her a try. And from what I know, I think this is like taking place on an island, and that it is like a isolated kind of mystery where there's only a certain amount of people that it could be. So it's a nice cover, but it doesn't feel like a winter cover, but maybe it'll be nice to escape during the snow and the cold to somewhere a little more tropical. So those are my 4 new releases from January that I would like to read. And then I thought I would show you guys kind of what we are reading as a family. So we've started like in the evening doing kind of like a family reading time, and we started The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe at the end of January. So we're gonna move on to Prince Caspian. I'm recording this like when we still have a week left in January, so it's possible that I will have already started this, but even if we have, then we'll just move to the next one. I think we're only gonna read the first 3 of like, okay, I know they come in different order. Some people go by chronological order and some people go by published order. I think with my daughter, we're gonna do it published order and just do the 3 that have the like the Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy that I know are kind of okay for this age group because my daughter is 6, she'll be 7 by the time we read this book. So I think we're just going to do The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Prince Caspian, and The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, because I think some of the later books might not be age appropriate for her, and I would like to read them first before reading them with her. So this is the one we're going to read next. But like I said, if we've already read this at the end of January, we'll move on to The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. Then one thing I want to do, and I'm not making this an official goal because I don't want to give myself extra pressure with lots of goals, but I would like to read at least one nonfiction book a month, just because I really have enjoyed a lot of the nonfiction I've read in the past. And so I just need to remember to pick them up. I just don't always remember because the fiction is calling to me, but I need to remember to pick up nonfiction. So one is a group read. I am reading Celebration of Discipline by Richard J. Foster, and this is on Krista from Books and Jams, her channel. We are doing a read along for this in February, so you're welcome to join us, and there'll be like live chats, I think every week, where we discuss certain sections of this book. And this is like kind of like a study of different spiritual disciplines, so like meditation, prayer, fasting, study, things like that. And it goes through different kinds of disciplines. And yeah, we're going to be doing that on her channel. I won't be in every live show. Usually there's a big group of us and we alternate who is in the live show, but I will be reading this throughout the month and joining in on that live chat. So I will link her video down below where she talks about it if you want to check it out. And then I wanted to add one more nonfiction as a possibility because it's relating to what we're learning in my daughter's school, and that is The Soul of an Octopus by Cy Montgomery. And this is like kind of like this is a naturalist. He's a naturalist, and he's kind of talking about emotional and physical world of the octopus and how it relates to us as humans. And we are studying oceans right now in school, and so I just heard really great things about this book that is kind of profound and inspiring, and it makes you really like octopuses. I think I heard that it's not octopi, that it's octopuses. So yeah, I would like to at least start this one. I might not finish it in February, but it might, because we're just studying oceans for like probably the next month and a half. So I could at least start it and kind of, you know, take my time with that book. And then another unofficial goal I have, which I'm not going to, like I said, put it in stone, but I would like to always have a short story book going and also try to read at least one play every month, just because that's something I would like to get into more, like reading more short fiction and short things, and also reading more plays. So the short story collection that I'm going to keep going on with this month is the Edgar Allan Poe stories, and I had read a lot of these in like September and October of last year, and this is just a huge book, so I still have a lot of them left. I don't plan on finishing it this month, but I like back when I was doing in the fall, I was reading about 10 to 12 stories a month, and so if I could read around 10 more stories, that would be great, and it'll just keep chipping away at this book, because altogether I think there's probably like at least 70 stories in this, so it just will take me a long time to get through them all. But if I read 10 every once in a while when I pick it up, like I probably won't do this in March, it'll be like this is in February, and then a few more months I'll read 10 more. So yes, this is the next one that I want to kind of dive into more of Poe's stories. Then in terms of plays, I had 2 from the library that I would kind of like to prioritize since they're library books and need to go back. One is A Streetcar Named Desire by Tennessee Williams. And if you watched my video where I talked about all the plays I want to read, I did read this back in college, and I actually was like backstage doing stage managing for this when we performed the show in college. So I'm very familiar with the play, but I feel like I was too young to really appreciate all the themes. And so as like a full-on adult who has had more experiences in life, I want to revisit this play. And then I also want to read Pygmalion by George Bernard Shaw. And if you don't know, this is the play that the movie My Fair Lady was based off of. And that was one of my favorite movies growing up because I was a huge Audrey Hepburn fan. So I would like to read the play that it's based off of. So those are the 2 plays. And plays are so short. Like, I know this has a lot of commentary. Plays are very short. So I don't think it'll be a problem to read 2 of them. Since they're library books, then I'll get to return them. And then I decided to participate in the Booktube Spin for the first time ever. And if you don't know what that is, I'll link it down below. It's a gentleman on Booktube who, like, he has you pick 20 books, and then he spins a wheel and gives you 2 numbers, and you take those 2 numbers off of that TBR. Sorry that you can hear my kids in the background. I'm in charge of them right now, but they were playing nicely, so I thought I could get this filmed. So they're just gonna be singing in the background, I guess. It's fine. So what I did for the Booktube Spin was I took the 20 books I picked were all books that I had started last year in my try a chapter videos. And I was like, I never finished any of these books. So I was like, okay, I either need to finish the 2 that are picked or get rid of them. So the 2 that were picked are We Are the Ants by Sean David Hutchinson and Burial Rites by Hannah Kent. And so I need to either read these books. He gives us to the end of March, but March is middle grade March. So I don't necessarily want to be reading these in March. So I thought, I'll try to read them in February, but I have until the end of March, and then I'm going to get rid of them if I haven't read them. I think for sure that I will read Burial Rites because it has like a very winter feel because it's taking place, I think it takes place in Iceland, and it has like a very snowy, cold feel, so I feel like this one will get read. This one was one I was questionable about when I was trying the first chapter. I didn't know if I would be annoyed by the main character as a teenage boy who has a lot of like teenage boy humor and sarcasm. So this is one that I'm going to feel very comfortable DNFing if I get like 25% into it and I'm not into it. I'm fine getting rid of it, but I at least want to give it a chance so it's not sitting on my shelf forever. So those are the 2 for the Booktube Spin I got. Next, I have a bunch of Greek mythology books. So if you've seen some of my TBRs lately, I am like reading a lot of Greek mythology like in December, January, and this month because we are studying ancient Greece in my daughter's school, and I've been really getting into it. So this month I'm kind of focusing on the Iliad and Odyssey kind of stories, and so those are the books that I picked for this TBR. I might sprinkle other Greek mythology books in here, but those are the ones I want to focus on. So first I'm going to read Troy by Stephen Fry, and this is like, instead of reading the Iliad by Homer, this is him kind of like going through the Trojan War, and I read Mythos and Heroes in this this series that he's doing of the Greek myths reimagined, and I loved it, so I am really excited to see how he does the Trojan War, because I'm not usually one that likes books about battles, but if anybody's going to make it interesting, I think it's going to be him, because the other ones have been really exciting and funny and engaging, so I hope this one will be as well. And then related to Troy, the Battle of Troy, I have Daughters of Sparta by Claire Haywood, and I think this is from the point of view of the women, so from the point of view of Helen and Clytemnestra, is that how you say her name? So that's her sister, who's also a princess of Sparta, and just like the constraints of their society and the ways that they are involved in their society, but they're very limited, you know, ability as women. So it's interesting. I don't think I've read anything from the viewpoint of Helen, so that would be a fun one to read. And then I have The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller, because everybody always recommends this and says it's like the best modern, you know, Greek mythology retelling. So I'm excited to read this one. I think this one is following Achilles and Patroclus and kind of their relationship during the Trojan War. And then I have 1,000 Ships by Natalie Haynes. And this one is where she goes through, I think she takes the viewpoint of all of the women during the war. So from the Trojan women whose fate now lies in the hands of the Greeks, to the Amazon princesses who fought Achilles on their behalf, from Penelope waiting for Odysseus. So it's going through all the women that were involved in like the Iliad and the Odyssey and kind of seeing their viewpoints. And I think it's kind of written almost like short stories, like, so different sections from different women. I'm not for sure, but I would like to try this. I know she writes a lot of Greek myth retellings and reimaginings, so I would like to try one of hers. And then on to the Odyssey and the Odyssey retellings. I'm going to read this book, The Odyssey, which is retold from the epic poem and illustrated by Manuela Adriani. And this is kind of like a picture book of the retelling of the Odyssey, but with like gorgeous pictures, and it's still like a lot of text, so I think it's going to have a lot of the story. I just didn't feel like reading the entire Homer's Odyssey, and so I'm going to read this. I've also already read like a version of like a chapter book version of the Odyssey with my daughter, so I'm excited to see this with like the pictures, because the chapter book we read had no pictures in it, so I think this one will be fun to have the pictures. And then in terms of kind of the retellings and stuff I'm going to read Circe by Madeline Miller, which once again, really popular lately. And I'm very interested now that I've read that chapter book and finally know who Circe is and like her role in the Odyssey. I'm really interested to see her viewpoint. And then I also have the Penelopead by Margaret Atwood, and this is told from Penelope's point of view, because when you read, at least the like version of the Odyssey I read with my daughter, all Penelope does is like cry and wait, and like, you know, just full of her waiting and grieving for her husband. And so I'm interested to see something written from her point of view so that she could be more of a fleshed out character. And then the final one to go along with this is Women in Power by Mary Beard. And this is actually a nonfiction book. And I didn't realize at first that this was related to Greek myths, but when because I just had it on my TBR, but then I was looking into it more and I realized she is like relating kind of the things that she is talking about women and power. She's talking about current women, so she discusses women like Hillary Clinton and Elizabeth Warren, but she also goes back to Homer's Odyssey and talks about Penelope and talks about Medusa and some of these women from Greek mythology and their roles in society, and how our view of women in power goes all the way back to ancient times. So I'm really interested in reading this now that I know that this is related to ancient history. And then the last two that revolve around Greek mythology are involving Medea. So I want to actually read Medea by Euripides, which is a Greek tragedy play. And I know I have other plays, but I specifically want to read this as part of my like Greek mythology reading. So I want to read that one. And then I heard that Salvage the Bones by Jesmyn Ward is actually a retelling of Medea. And yeah, I want to see how she does that in a modern setting, because the things that happen in Medea, from what I know, are pretty brutal. And so I'm really interested to see how she does it as a retelling, if she's just like how she's going to relate that to modern day. I really don't know much about anything. Oh, it's talking about a hurricane. I don't know if it's Hurricane Katrina or a different one, but yeah, it's a family dealing with a hurricane. I don't know how that's going to relate to the Greek tragedy, but I'm really interested. I've heard great things about this author, so I figured this was the time to try her out. And then the last thing that I want to talk about for my TBR is my series. If you saw either my like plan for how I'm going to read my series this year or my last TBR, I have decided to like put all of like the series that I'm continuing in one jar, pull out 3, and I have to read one of those. And then I also have another jar of the series I want to start. But I'm not going to pull from that jar this month because I'm doing this kind of like challenge with some friends online. And it just happened to be the challenge caused me to like pull 3 books off my shelf. So I thought, well, you know, that we're like beginnings of series. So I didn't figure I needed to pull them. So my challenge is to read a urban fantasy book. And so I had 3 beginnings of series that are urban fantasy, so I will read one of these for that separate challenge, but it'll also fulfill my starting a series. So I have Soulless by Gail Carriger, which takes place in London. I think it's like a historical fantasy where London plays a big part. I have The Water Horse by Holly Webb, and this is also a fantasy. It's a middle grade fantasy series that is taking place in Venice, and I believe Venice is a big part of that one as well. And then I have Akata Witch by Nadia Korafor, and this is taking place in Nigeria. And so all of those are urban fantasy, and so I will read one of those to fulfill my starting a series from my shelves, but also for that other challenge. But I will pick 3 books from my continuing series. And I didn't bring myself a container to shuffle these in. I'll just use my box set from The Lord of the Rings because it's just easier than trying to like pull them out of that little container. So the first series, so like I said, I'm going to pull 3 and I want to at least continue one of these. Oh, so the first one I pulled was Seabound Chronicles, which I had pulled last month, and I'm right now reading the second book in this series. So I'll pull that off my shelf, the third book, which means I might end up finishing a trilogy. That'd be fun. The second one I pulled was Ink Spell, or actually I think it should have been Inkheart is the actual series. So I read the first one, was it last year? 2 years ago? And I need to continue that series. And then, oh, I accidentally pulled 2. Separate. And the last one I pulled, I feel like I'm pulling the same ones. I pulled Mistborn, which I also pulled last month. I put them back in if I don't read them or if I still have books in the series. So let's see, let me pull those books and show you which ones they are. All right, so like I said, I had pulled the second book in the Seabound Chronicles last time, and I am currently reading that. So if I can finish that by the end of the month, then I will pick up the third book and I will have finished a trilogy, which, you know, I mean, it's kind of weird that I picked 2 the same ones from last month, But the good thing is that means I'm actually going to finish a series if I pick this one up. And this is kind of like a dystopian, futuristic, apocalyptic kind of book where there has been like a big disaster on land, so everybody lives on the sea, so they live in boats because the land is uninhabitable, and they like eat seaweed and fish and things like that. And you know, a lot of things have happened in the first book and are starting to happen in the second book, so I can't tell you what this one will be about, but I'm enjoying it so far. It'd be nice to finish that one. Another option would be to continue on to Inkspell. So like I said, I had read Inkheart, and so this would be a middle grade fantasy where people can go into books. And then the Mistborn series, I have read Mistborn, but if you watch my TBR last month, I said I don't really remember it, so I would reread the first one. So, you know, if I pick Seabound Chronicles, I'll finish a series. If I pick this one, I will continue a series. And if I pick Mistborn, I will restart a series. So one of those will be read this month. And so that's it for my TBR. Like I said, this is very ambitious. So we'll see how many of these things get read. Probably not all of them, but like each of them come from categories where I could pick one. Like I might not read both plays, might read one. I might not read all the new releases. I might only read one of those four. So those were some possibilities that I might read this month. Let me know if you're reading anything special in February. Do you pick up your new releases right away? Do you buy them, pre-order them, get them from the library? I always just get them from the library because one, I'm trying to buy less in 2022, and because I don't really like hardcover books on my shelf, so I don't usually buy new releases. So I usually just get them from the library. But how does everybody else do it? I would love to hear from you down below, and I'll see you next time. Bye.